North Mount Juliet Road on April 11th, 2022 from 5:15 to 6 to discuss the sewer pocket plan. The public is invited to attend. So with that, let's go. Mr. Barlow, going to lead us off.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioners, Kenny, Gino, distinguished gentlemen and gentlewomen, and ladies. Thank you all for coming here tonight. I know we've been work sessioning y'all to death. We've got one more after this one. So there's been some discussion about our sewer pocket plan, what it looks like. Steve Jones with Water Management Services we've got him here to kind of talk through this. He's been working on everything with the city for 15, 20 years now with Water Management Services. So he's very, very familiar with our system. We've gone through several master plans. Part of that and part of our state requirement, we have to have a pocket plan. And I guess to define the pocket plan is a required plan to serve areas that are currently within the city of Mount Juliet. So that's a very important word, currently within the city of Mount Juliet, and with a plan for service, basically. And so we went through this, I'm going to say a little over 2 years ago when we updated our master plan. And we've actually gone through and done a couple of projects starts out of that, one on John Wright Road and one on Old Living and Dirt Road, at least designed. And that's in conjunction with our Old Living and Dirt Road widening project. So we're going to kind of give an overview of those a little bit and kind of talk through some of the cost benefit. I think that's probably been one of our biggest considerations is the cost benefit of these, and the reason why we have not done so many in the past is because of the cost to it. And so we'll kind of talk through that. And I want to touch a little bit on sewer service areas. I know that discussion has come up, and we want to take the service area will be a discussion that it's going to go far beyond this meeting tonight. It's not really the purpose of this one, but I figured it's probably important to touch on anyway, which is the maps that you have. So let's see. Shane, did you want to give any further intro? Shane, Steve, I guess. Take it away, Russ.
All right. That's Scott. I wonder if you meet his doctor and not Dr. Scott. Oh, my desk. She didn't say anything.
Thank you, Steve.
Give Gino one. You know, him and Tim worked on this for the last 30 years.
That's right.
I think
That's
I got
right.
it figured out.
Yeah, Gina.
I got it memorized.
You do at this point.
No.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Mayor, while he hands that out, this is sort of an inside joke with Steve because we've known him for so long. If you notice, he's a rather tall gentleman, so we call him a big drink of water, but no pun intended. Get it?
Oh,
Water management, big drink of water. He's heard that before.
we don't want the water he's got. He can design clean water
Yes.
too.
He can. He can do both, but he's
Put your
Fabulous to
oral
work with.
counseling.
Sorry, can y'all hear me? Okay, so as Andy was saying, one of the requirements of having a sewer system is that you do have a plan to service people that are inside your city but do not have sewer service at this time. Doesn't mean you have to serve them at this time. You just have to have a plan on how to provide that service in the future if they need it. One of the things I've talked to Andy and Shane about is, in a lot of these areas, right, one of the big concerns is you go into a residential neighborhood that may have 30 or 40 houses, and that seems like a great thing to do. You're extending sewer service to your constituents. Does everybody or the majority of people in that area want that? If they have working septic systems, do they want to start paying a sewer bill, even if they don't hook onto the sewer system? So some of the things to think about from city council's perspective as we go through here, in addition to what the cost of service is. Obviously, the more people that are in an area that you extend the sewer into, the more bang for your buck that you're going to get, right? The least it's going to cost on a per customer basis. So what I've given you is the sewer pocket plan. So that's the book. And then in addition to that, went through in the single 8.5 by 11 handout sheet there is we looked at the number of residences that would receive service for each project and turned that into how much it cost per home in order to extend the sewer line based on today's construction cost. So you can see as you look down through there, there's vastly different numbers for certain areas in the sewer system. And that's mainly just due to topographic limitations, what we have to do to get service to those people. And then just how many people are in those general areas. Old Lebanon Dirt Road that Andy mentioned earlier, there's quite a few houses along Old Lebanon Dirt Road that don't have sewer. So as you extend that sewer, you pick up many more houses than you do for other places in the sewer system. So I don't know.
Yeah, Steve, I guess you probably just run through sort of the overall plan and
Yeah,
just kind of hit highlights, I think, probably.
I'm rotated here. Let's see. Oh, there we go. So this is the overall map, which is in the booklet that I just handed out to everybody. It shows the commissioner districts and then the areas that are identified within the commissioner's districts that don't have sewer service at this time. As you'll notice, there are certain districts that have a lot more pockets in them than others. That's due to a few reasons. One is obviously where we have residential development, obviously around Golden Bear. That's mostly developing right now as commercial, light industrial. So not really a lot of residential in that area. And then in and around the central part of Mount Juliet, that's where in 1982, that was all developed as low pressure sewer as part of the EPA funded grant that began the sewer system. So, we don't have any holes really in that particular area. But as we go out towards the county line with Metro, Davidson County, Old Lebanon Dirt Road, West Division, you start to see a lot of pockets in that general area. So that's one of the areas where, as you do pocket plans, you're able to pick up more customers than you are in certain other areas of the city sewer system. I don't know if you all want to step through each one of these individually. We can definitely do that. Or if there's certain areas where constituents have reached out to you in regards to sewer that you want to look at in great detail, but we can.
I'm more confused about one piece here.
Well, y'all,
Yes.
y'all got to share a mic, I guess.
Oh.
Or
I'm sorry.
push. There's one right there. I think fold it over.
Let's see. I'm looking at where Parish Place in my district, and it shows Karen Drive, SA5 and SA16.
Mm-hmm.
And SA4 looks like it's just a little tiny piece right there. Those three areas where SA5 is, that should have service right there. That's Silver Springs. And Dollar General and all that. Andy, you see what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right here. Right there.
Yeah, uh-huh. Right.
Let's see.
So I'm thinking there's sewer there already.
Well, so for the houses, if you flip over into the packet and the order, SA, 1 through whatever, if you go to SA5, it shows kind of a map of
Upside down.
locations for the gravity extension. There's actually 3 separate possibilities you've got there. One, you could run up Terrace Hill, and then another one's actually on the north side of Lebanon Road. It's those existing properties. Now, I know that one of those you actually have a portion of that being constructed for grade A's office building right now. And so that's actually under construction. Then the other portion there is a little bit there on Lebanon Road, kind of south, following that stream, kind of heads a little bit more east. And actually that's taken in portion of what the Tomlinson property and the Beezer, well, now Toll Brothers development. So you go to each one of these and it kind of show you the details. And obviously, I think one thing to point out on this, these are ever evolving. And probably this is a great thing to point out now for these in particular. You've got a couple of these that are at least partially being done by development at no cost to the city. And so I think the idea is having this in the plan when a development comes along and say, here, take this and go with it, or at least a portion of it. And so, but the remainder is out there. Basically, I think, Steve, these are for existing residents, not on sewer.
Existing
So it doesn't
residents.
take businesses, right?
Yeah, that's correct. And I mean, in this particular one, for example, just to the east of Parish Place there, we have had sewer availability request in this general area that you see me moving the cursor around on, and for people wanting to develop property. And, you know, this information has been shared with them, but no one has wanted to make that investment to bring the sewer across two or three other properties to get to the one that they're wanting to develop at this time.
Is it already going across Mr. McDaniel's property where the little yellow dots are?
No, the little yellow dots, so that's the end of it right there, right? Yeah.
Right here.
So, yeah, and so the little yellow dots would
So-
be where it would be extended from.
So we go across Mr. McDaniel's and Chevelle's and then over here onto the Toll Brothers project. That's right.
I point out these are the old district maps for commissioners too.
That is correct.
Okay, that's my. Need to get a new shape file for that, and we'll get a new shape file and get that updated then.
Yeah, because a lot of this stuff that shows in District 3 now lands in District 2's.
Okay.
I don't want to go get involved with all that yet. I want to focus on what you're doing. So.
Yeah, that's just we just don't have the updated shape file in the GIS program that it came out of, but we'll update the GIS file and redo the maps and the booklet and everything. So
I guess my question would be, is there a plan, or are we going to develop a plan over a period of the next 5 years or something to get this done, or what's the recommendation?
Well, maybe now's a good time to talk money.
Just need 15 million.
It's $15 million.
Yeah.
So how much more do you need?
Well, I mean,
Come on, man.
I mean, I guess my concern is that if we went out and we said, hey, go do every bit of this as fast as you can, fund got an extra 15 million just sitting around allocated? Don't think so.
No,
So then it would be a bond issue if we were just gung ho to go knock this out ASAP. So what would the ramifications be around that? Have there been anybody looked at the numbers if we were take out a $15 million bond just to go do this, what that would do for the existing customers and the rates that it would take to do that?
So we did put, so I guess one way to look at it, you can look at it on a cost per customer, new customer that you add. You can place that on the new customers. And you can see those right there. Steve, you probably talk about the cost of somebody having to go in there. Probably talk through, I guess, options as far as what people have if they've got a septic failure.
yeah, so let's talk about. There's nothing that requires you to solve all of these today or within the next 3 years. I mean, these pockets have existed in the city since
Its inception.
the inception in 1982,
Right.
and when the sewer system was built. So, I mean, there are places along Old Lebanon Dirt Road, especially that, the sewer has been in the same location that it is today, away from their home for the last 40 years, and no one has, extended sewer there. So there's nothing that makes you extend sewer at this time. As Andy has said, this is a plan to show if I needed to extend sewer from the city's perspective, how would I go about doing that? in regards to the cost, I mean, you have the estimated cost based on what construction pricing is today that we're seeing on publicly bid projects. And when you look at that, I think, that's why we broke it down per house, because if you take the average house, if they have a septic system that needs to be redone, their average cost to have their septic system redone right now is probably between $12,000 and $15,000, as compared to upwards, some of these are $20,000, some of them are $75,000 per home. So, what I've told, like I said, what I've told to Andy and Shane is, I think one of the major things is that I see other municipalities around the state that do in regards to their pocket plan is once they start getting a lot of requests for sewer availability out of a certain area that's identified within the pocket plan, they make the decision to extend at that time, because those are the locations that are having problems with their septic systems. They're unable to get their septic systems repaired, and they're asking for an extension at that time. And because of that, obviously they're more than willing to help participate in extending that. Now, that's one philosophy. Another philosophy can be, we want to extend this and we want to make this available to all of our existing city residents right now because they're inside the city. And that's a perfectly fine philosophy as well. And so that's where the $15 million estimate comes from. But again, as I said, there's nothing mandating you to spend $15 million to put these sewers in the ground today.
Good question. Okay, sorry.
I think this question on rates, we'd have to go through the rate study again. That would be my recommendation, is to bring that back up and then go through and come up with a formal number.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Yes.
kind of the worst case scenario is kind of what I was looking at.
I think the downside of that is if you say, hey, we're going to provide sewer to every single person in the city and we're going to do a rate study to pay for it. The ramifications are you've got 10,000 plus residential customers that are going to be very upset about having to pay more on their sewer bill for people who don't necessarily have to have it today.
Yeah, that's worst case scenario.
So my question I have, just because I do have a few folks over off of Page and also over there off of Woods Court that is asking.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, like my first concern is trying to figure out if there's any projects that that's on this list that you provided. I mean, is there any projects that are currently that we are as a city doing any type of new installations that we could be looking at adding these lines that would kind of, if we got to come up with a
Yeah.
plan, that's the first line of attack that we're already digging in that area. So we don't want to dig up twice.
Mhm.
So is that kind of like the first plan? And then,
So,
so I got a second part to that, if you don't mind,
yes, sir.
which which I asked Shane about this and didn't know if it was an option, but have we decided maybe what's the best line of communication to be able to see what is needed? I mean, like what's the demand? So if we have, let's just say 20 houses on one road that we're trying to see, is it possible to get like a survey or something, some type of response back from these folks? I mean, I know that not always that's the best line of communication, but again, if we don't have phone numbers, emails, or anything like that, we may not get a response. So how do we know what their demand is? Because a lot of folks have, they're happy with what they currently have. So this contingency plan may not even be needed in that area.
Yeah, so that is, we've talked about that, Andy, Shane, and I, and our recommendation and what we've done in other locations is to use certified mail. Use certified mail, have a questionnaire sent to each individual's house so that it's been delivered, and ask those people to respond the same way. I get them from Piedmont Gas all the time. If gas was available in your area, would you be interested in obtaining service from us? And so that would be the general questionnaire, right? If the city of Mount Juliet had sewer service in your area, would you be interested in tying on to sewer service? Another thing that I mentioned to Andy was, somebody comes in and they're in an established development that doesn't have sewer service, and they say, hey, I would like to get sewer service. It's, from my standpoint, what I've seen be very successful in the past is get them involved in the petitioning process. Say, hey, we'd love to bring sewer service to you. Can you help us? Can you get in touch with your neighbors? Can you get them to sign off on the fact that they want sewer service? Because the last thing I would think, if I were in any of your all's position, was I've got 40 residents in a neighborhood. I put sewer service in there. 3 people want it. And now the other 37 people are mad because they have to pay a minimum sewer bill, even though they're not hooked up to the sewer system, because that could be $30 a month that they have to start paying
For that reason.
I've been there, done that.
for no reason.
Got a T-shirt. Whitnell Drive, daisy chain across the road. Yeah, laying down in front of bulldozers. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yep.
it seems like for every person that's pleased with the progress of bringing the sewer into their development, you have a potentially another person who's unhappy that's being brought in because they're having to pay for service. And that's set based on city ordinances. If you're within 200 feet of the sewer system, you're automatically a minimum bill customer, whether you've tied on to the sewer system or not. In regards to your question about what projects are ongoing right now, so this is over at Page Drive. So there is a project to do a widening of Old Lebanon Dirt Road. And so you can see on my cursor there, this portion of the sewer here, as I follow along and across Jackson Hollow and then back up Old Lebanon Dirt Road, is going to be installed along with the road widening. So that's on SA 17. There are actual design plans that bring the sewer all the way up around Page Drive, all the way past Woods Court. And to be honest with you, those sewer plans are 15 years old. They were designed 15 years ago by Tim Graves, and then it was never built. So, I mean, 15 years ago, the council was facing this same question of whether or not to extend sewer into this area, and the decision was made at that time no, after the design was done. So, if council wanted to, then that would be obviously one area right there where it'd be very easy to add on to a project that is going on right now with the roadway widening and extend sewer up around Page Drive and pick up a number of customers in that area. We've got that potentially impacts 27 residences.
Do we have access to the old pocket plan that we passed back in 2007, 6, 7?
I do at the office. I didn't think to bring that with me, right?
I don't have, that's the one I voted on back then, and we never could figure out why it wasn't done at that time.
Yeah. So
I would venture to guess that this was probably one of the projects that came about from that plan.
What's that?
the Page Drive project. Yeah.
Page Drive was.
Yeah.
I very clearly remember that one. That was when we also did the.
This was the follow-up meeting to that.
This was the Nonnable Road.
7 years.
We spent 2.6 million on Nonnable Road getting sewer, go out there to the trailer park and
15 years
my
later.
subdivision and all that area out Nonnable. To the Royal Oaks side, I think.
Yeah, there was a lot of work done along Nonnable Road there. And like I said, Page Drive, that was the time when Page Drive here was designed. And for whatever reason, it was never funded and built at that time. So.
Commissioner Miley, I see you had a question.
I have an interest on the very last page, SA 24, South Rutland. Okay,
Where's it at?
South
Very last
Rutland.
Page in the book.
Oh, okay.
It's the back of the Baird construction entrance. Okay, there's 5 houses south of there that are in the city limits. And those horizontal right there that you see, those are county.
Yep.
But I do have an interest for sewer connection, one from the city, in the city limits. One in the city is not interested, and I do have an interest of one from the county. And I've got to finish going door to door to gauge that. Shane and I have been in a lot of discussion about this because the one that is interested, he was wanting to foot the bill to connect for him, and it was going to be estimated $25,000 or so. And then once that happens, as each person connects to it, it was going to be set up somehow to, I don't know, pay him back somehow through the connection. I don't know. We need to have another meeting, but so that's I am showing interest there, and I got to go finish going door to door to see exactly how much support.
I'll say on that one, it does come out assuming everybody was to connect, you're all 11 potential residences there. That is the cheapest per residence.
Yeah, we did take a look at this one and we laid it out as a low pressure gravity sewer system where each home would have its own little grinder pump station and then a small diameter force main to carry those flows back over into the existing gravity sewer. Topographically there for what homes there were to come into the sewer system, it didn't really make sense to try to run a gravity sewer through that area from a cost standpoint. And so it does, because it is small diameter pipe, it is much more economical and it's not very far to the gravity sewer system. So that is one of the most economical projects in the entire plan.
Has there been any thought? I don't know how exactly that lays out. Maybe some cooperation with what's being served there below it. Speaking about the neighborhoods directly south of there, wouldn't drain to our system, but I forget the name of the neighborhood, but Wright Farms, I believe.
Yeah, there's Wright Farms. Wright Farms, I was going to say, is probably about 1,500 feet away or so still.
If they was interest on that entire road, maybe it makes sense to go that way with it.
Waterford Park, which is the Beezer neighborhood, came through the BOC is Coffin.
No, that ties on to us. though.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes. I think as you think on that, that one actually has sewer to the east. It could provide, but I don't know the depth of that. They do have a sewer pump station down that way somewhere.
Yeah, they were going to. I think they were doing two, one on each side of the road.
I think so, yeah.
I'll say this is a general rule, and this is why, I mean, my house included, one of the older houses that was put on the sewer. It was pressure. I've got a grinder pot. As a user of a grinder pot, previously having had a gravity tap, I much prefer a gravity tap because being out of power for extended time, 2 times in 2020, your house is unusable. And then to the city, the downside of this, it is very economical to do low pressure grinder systems because the pipe, it's small pipe, we can install it ourselves.
Yeah.
And we have done so on some of these. And so it's good, but it on the front end, but on the back end, there's a lot of further costs. There's costs to the homeowner, the power to maintain the pump. If they, and this is our current setup, if the homeowner does something to destroy the pump, we, the city, foot the bill. They pay it the first time, and then we pay it from there on to infinity. And so there's pumps in the ground. My house is 34 years old. I don't know how many times the pump has been replaced, but it was put in the first time by the developer. And then every time since, it's been at the cost of the city of Juliet. And so you talk about those costs. Does that cost? I mean, you say that's a $200,000 job. Steve, on a ballpark for sewer or for gravity sewer, the double, probably.
Yeah, so gravity sewer right now for 8-inch gravity sewer, we're estimating it at $120 a foot. So that's what your estimated numbers here are in with pipe prices and everything. And it can be upwards to $160 a foot in the estimates, just depending upon what I know about the topography of the area, how deep it's going to have to be and stuff. So it's significantly more expensive. We started here originally looking at this one as a grinder pot setup because there was one house that we were told, was interested in making a connection to the sewer system. It wasn't very far to the existing manhole in the development to the north. And so in order to serve that one house, there was no way to get there by gravity. There was really nowhere to go from that one house. So we just said, okay, well, you could do that with a low pressure sewer system. And then it just kind of grew from there. Well, if you had a low pressure sewer system there, you could grab these other 7 or 8 houses if somebody wanted to tie on. But as a general rule of thumb, what we've been doing with the developers, at least over the last 4 or 5 years, is limiting them in a new development to no more than about 5 grinder pumps for areas that are specifically difficult for them to be able to get gravity sewer into, just because it keeps Public Works from having to maintain, 200 or 300 grinder pumps.
Well, I'd
just
like
to-
to know if we could just grandfather in the existing grinders and do new service going forward, maybe under a different agreement. I mean, it's a question for Gino. If you can grandfather in the existing grinders and move some of that risk off the utility onto the customer,
What are you grandfathering?
the existing grinder pumps.
Okay, but what specifically are you grandfather? I mean, the cost of
Yeah,
the
well, I
pump,
mean,
or-
I think we have an obligation with existing customers for maintaining those grinder pumps, but maybe going forward, that's not something we want to do any longer. And it makes it more economical for us and less risky to extend sewer to some of these pocket plans if we're not having to foot the bill for the grinders from now to eternity. Or split cost or something that makes, so there's got a little skin in the game. If you wanna, I don't know, put your old clothes down the toilet and it'll go, whatever strange people do with the sewer systems that make up all of those interesting stories when you go to class.
and to kind of, it's a lawyer term. I think that's a slippery slope. I think you wind up, if you're not careful, you get a hold of a bad bunch of grinders, these people out here depending, they can't spend $3,000, and you got a grinder pump that goes out 2 years down the road every 2 years just because you got, bad dealership or something.
They're
And
more than that, probably.
I thought they were around 2,500, just when I was.
Just got about an 8% increase notification last week on the pump. So I'll get your updated numbers to you.
But Vice Mayor, you had a question as well.
Yeah, I do, because I'm trying to recollect back to what we did 06, 07. Gino, you may remember how we handled that financially. I know it started out being $1.3 million, and then it wound up being $2.6 million because Mr. Conrad did not have any idea how much rock we had in that area over there. He had to bring machines in from Illinois to finish it with. That's how bad it was. But then what we did was we did a no interest loan, basically per residence. And we had a company that went in and brought it from the pump into the house, didn't charge them. And all we charged was tap and capacity fees, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I think that's right. And the no interest loan was paid back over
2 years?
12, 24 months.
I think it was
something like
18 months or 24 months one.
that. I'll pull that up and see what we did on it. But yeah, it was, and it worked.
It was like $60 a month added to the bill is what it was. And then, of course, we had the people that did not want to be on, but still caught the minimum bill. Those are the ones who laid down in front of the bulldozer, by the way. Over $11 a month. But I mean, you were talking about, well, you said $25,000 that somebody was wanting to give to hook on to the sewer. Is that what you were saying?
I think it was spend it and then recoup it as people.
Through the
hook on.
neighbors as they hook on.
Yeah, which we.
Well,
done
what,
with
they come
several
back and pay
developers.
it back as the others sign on?
Mhm.
Okay, if he did that, but they would still be subject to the minimum bill, though.
Say that again?
Huh?
Say that again?
They would still, even if somebody else did it, they still would be responsible for paying the minimum bill if they were within 200 feet, I believe, of the residence. So these people, regardless, are still going to have to pay that bill, and that's when you're going to see them get all ticked off because they don't have sewer.
Well, in addition to the 25, it was going to be what, $6,000-7,000 additional, as if it was already there, that's what would be their cost to hook onto it, right?
Yes, ma'am. So
Yeah.
they would have, so it's the cost to install the sewer line, then they have the cost for their own grinder pot, their connection from their house into that, which is done by a private plumber, and then whatever the tap, and then the tap and capacity fees into the sewer system. So there is some additional cost in there. They probably, at the end of the day, they're probably looking closer to $40,000 by the time they, you have the grinder station and the private plumbers and all that involved.
And then you wind up also with those people, their town, that are having to pay a portion of that cost when we historically have never charged anybody $25,000 to do that. I mean, we ate it basically as a city. The sewer, the enterprise fund that is the sewer, actually paid the cost of running the lines, whether it was through a bond issue or what it was, and then they would pay the normal tap of capacity fee as if they were new folks tying on.
Mhm.
And I mean, do you really want to?
What, he was willing to foot the bill up front to
I'm
get
sorry?
it. He was willing to foot the bill.
Well,
up-
he shouldn't be held responsible for footing the bill. We should, as a city. It's a service. It's actually a business that we run. So every customer that we get actually helps fund the enterprise fund that is the sewer. We have to make sure that whatever they pay in, and that we stay in the black so that we don't have the state coming in here setting their rates after a couple, 3 years. But I mean, basically it's a service. It has to pay for itself, but it's a service. And, the only way that we continue that service, and I don't think we can make a profit. I don't think that's the
No,
word
we
we're
cannot.
supposed to use, but
It's awful hard to make a profit on a sewer system.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
we're
would be
not
no
allowed.
I don't know if
profit
Pine
there.
Creek's doing a pretty good
Can we
job.
just say
Yeah.
real quick, if this one particular project got put in this next budget, what would be the timeline on that? And also, if say 8 out of the 11 wanted to connect, would that change the price per customer? Or would it still be the same?
So the 18,000 is based on everybody connected.
Yeah.
So no, that would be the lowest for now, and we have to figure out financing how that would work for us or them. And I think to Steve's point, kind of talking through it, and even Ray's point, talking about the viability of the sewer fund itself, is to I think what we would have to consider is how that cost will be accounted for. I think we amongst this body are going to have to decide how do we want to take into account the money spent here on these. If you do one or two of these every couple of years and they're they're $500,000, those are probably ones that could be absorbed into it and not have to go through the full rate study to reestablish a brand new rate. Now, if we said, hey, let's hit all of them and $14 million, I'm going to say there's no other way to do it. We're going to have to do a rate study. Even several of these, I mean, if you hit one of these, it's a couple $1 million. It could get real expensive real quick. And so we did include, I believe we included Old Lebanon Dirt Road because we had already been working on that with the road widening. And I think we look at the opportunities. Where's the opportunity? Well, we're going to be tearing apart Old Lebanon Dirt Road. And so we said, okay, if that's the case, then we would need to, that's the perfect time to put sewer in there. We would be tearing up the road, to set taps, to go in and to set the manholes, to set the lines. It's a lot of mess. We don't want to do that after we just got done with that road. My road mindset is I don't want anything messing up the road. Much to Steve's chagrin sometimes.
SA11 is the one I have heard the most about.
Mhm. Yes.
17 is probably right behind it.
I think so. 17,
I would say 17, if you're right.
17 and let's see, is 11 the other part of that? Yeah. Let's see.
Andy, before
Yes, sir.
our time is up, Mayor, if it's okay. We had talked about vendor's ferry. Did y'all ever get any preliminary numbers on that?
Not I think where we were at, we got some preliminary numbers.
It's like 4.2, something like that.
Yes, I would probably go up from there based on the inflation we've had since then.
Okay.
Significant amount. The other part of that, I wanted to bring up the sewer map, the sewer service map. We had the discussion on the, which you've got a copy there. but we had the discussion on the service areas. You know, we talked about it with the UGB plan update, and the UGB is not shown on here on purpose. I want to kind of separate the two from your mind in a way that UGB, obviously, I think from what discussions we're having, is probably going to expand. And our sewer service, you can see our existing sewer where it's at. So let's take Bender's Ferry, for example. You have the existing gravity sewer that Silver Springs constructed down at the southern portion at Lebanon Road. But you got a pretty big run going up there to the north, and almost, you know, take Gilly Road up there for instance, that we could show as a proposed service area. And so, you know, to serve that area, what it would take. So the pocket plan doesn't have that shown because it's not in the city limits currently. So therefore, we don't have a pocket plan for that. It would be a separate standalone project in our capital project that we don't have yet. And so to do so, my recommendation would be if we had a development proposal, kind of what we talked about very heavily with Amazon, of setting something up, this developer would do this, maybe even we talked about Wintry Pines. There's a city contribution, a deferred cost. Maybe there's a city contribution that we get paid back. I'm kind of talking along the lines of what's the
Yeah, something like a TIF.
yeah, exactly. Similar.
Gino, is that legal to do? To set
The,
up an enterprise area like that, a development enterprise, and do a TIF program on it?
I'm not sure. Rather than guess.
Special assessment is what I
We'll
was
find
thinking.
out.
Well, it's a special assessment, and it's what we had done when we talked with Amazon to begin with, when they were talking about coming from the north back up to the project from the balls. Bless you. Yes.
Got it for me.
Rona, is that you? But if we're talking about, we were talking about establishing a per foot price that was associated with what the Amazon group was going to do. And then as people tied onto that, we would assess them, it was in a special assessment, the amount that Amazon paid to give Amazon their money back
Mhm.
for building the sewer all the way down.
We've done that before.
So that would be something that we could do. I'm sorry?
By contract with the developer.
Okay. All right. So that's something we could do down the Benders Ferry side as well then,
Oh,
correct?
definitely. And I think probably what I would take is, you know, we've had Wintry Pines. We discussed that with the development proposal, similar for Amazon. If we did have a development proposal, bring that in and have it be done. And then we could go ahead and we can get working on a better, basically like a one pager, kind of like what we have here. That'd be fine, Steve, I guess. Where you go and we have a one pager, kind of talk through the potential areas of service and talk about the cost and what that might look like. And my take on that would be, I'd like to see us recuperate all of our costs through development proposals in time. And I don't know what that time is going to look like,
Mayor?
but
Any
that would be
ideas
my
there?
proposal on it. It's a big area to take in.
I guess for my part in this, what I would ask is if we could get a plan, starting prioritize that the pockets that need to be served and, over a period of years.
Yeah, there's, well, we had a total of 24 of those. So, I mean, if you break them down to over a 12-year period or however you want to do it. But
I mean, my recommendation would be to look at it the same way, if you want to extend service everywhere, is the same way you do sewer rehabilitation. You set up a certain amount of money in your budget each year for sewer rehabilitation, and then based on, you know, where costs are, you know, if cost in piping, materials and stuff comes back down, you might get 3 projects in a year. If cost stays elevated, it might just be 2 projects. But, you know, that's would generally, I would say, would be the easiest way. I mean, if you didn't want to adjust, you know, if each year you wanted to earmark a certain amount of money for that type of work.
I mean, I'd like to see us chipping away at the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in trying to tackle some of the areas where, and I think it was a great suggestion there, like where do the people want it? I mean, last thing we want to do is just spend a lot of money, run sewer line, and nobody wants to connect to it, and they're being charged a minimum fee, and we've made no one happy and made ourselves a lot of enemies and spent a lot of money doing it. So that's not very smart.
Well, then we start with that survey and then
I think that's
take the priorities from that and then come up with a plan as to what we're going to do every year for the next 212 years.
and we may want to just do these surveys as we knock some off and then do another round of surveys and
Once a year or something, people come.
yeah, as we knock some off the projects. I mean, we may get response back that may keep us busy for the next 3 years or something, or we
Yeah.
may get something back that, find out that there's just really no one out there interested.
If there's a way we can
stand alone, like you got a single customer out there looking on it, and maybe it just makes more sense to try to handle these single ones, or there's options. I don't think we have to figure it out tonight with the sense that, it's a lot of money on this thing. We're talking about $15 million on it, and it could be that we really only need $3 million, and we can make the majority of the people happy and fix the majority of the problems with it.
Here's the issue I get with that. In 2005, when all this originally came up, we didn't codify anything. We just basically said, hey, we're going to do a pocket plan.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, we had a pocket plan. And if we will look at what we've got right now, that never happened. The pocket plan never was put in place. The only part that was ever put in place was actually the part that was over off Honorable in that area over there. So if we could figure out a way to codify this so that we knew that this was going to happen every single year that these surveys were going out. Otherwise, this is government. For God's sakes, we know it's
Yeah.
horrible.
Well, there's 310 new customers on here. I mean, that's not a bridge too far doing that survey. That's
No, it's fine.
No, I can have our staff pull together the information and the addresses and stuff and on behalf of the city and
And Sheila could go door to door. I mean, that's,
I mean,
yeah.
She's got the energy. I've seen her
Yeah.
hiking.
She just, I mean, she's going to walk it anyway. So you might as well. Yeah.
I think you'll find that there will be certain areas in here where people won't sewer. I mean, I would take sewer if you brought it to my house, but I'm out in the county and, there you go. But, but
I get it.
I think you will have people that want sewer. There will always be, as you said, Commissioner, those people that don't want sewer. Hopefully they won't lay down in front of the bulldozer this time.
I don't want to vote with them people anymore.
But, I mean, that'll be the question, I think, from that I would have if I was sitting in your seat is if 70% of a development wants sewer, is it 80%? What is the number that, moves a project forward?
we may find out it's less than 10% across the entire board.
That's right. My take on it would be, as I'm thinking through this, I think let's go through, let's get the questionnaire to everybody, and let's take the ones that get the highest response. If the highest response is 30%, let's look at those and let's dive in deeper, and maybe then we'll talk about it and say, hey, here's what we've got. I think you're probably going to be around that number, to be honest with you. And because I think the other aspect of it is, if you hook on, here's what I think we probably need to be up front and say, not just, hey, would you like to hook on, but if you want to hook on, be subject to, these fees and cost or whatever.
I think the
Well, the
commissioner
good
had-
news is we can always blame it on their neighbors if they don't. It is.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I was wanting to say was with the surveys, if we could be transparent and give them like an idea of what they're actually saying yes or no to.
Yes.
That will definitely determine if they have currently like whatever system that they have, is it something that they want to go ahead and keep maintaining on their own properties, or do they just want to go ahead and get rid of it?
Right.
But my second question, which was still what kind of you went over earlier, for like Old Lebanon Dirt Road. I mean, if there's projects right now that we're currently already opening up the ground, is there an opportunity for savings?
Yes.
Because, that's where I'm only looking at now, whether if it's Lebanon Dirt Road or in anybody else's district. I mean, that's kind of something I think it's called preventative maintenance for what we're trying to accomplish here. So, I mean, yes, it may cost a little bit why we got the hole open to go ahead and run those extra pipes, but we don't have to dig it up a second time. So so I guess that, and then also the survey should be those two decision makers for us to be able to come up with a better game plan, is my opinion.
Agreed. And one thing I'll also point out here, I think Steve brought up another good point. What we're talking about is pocket plans for current city residents. So these are your constituents as they sit today. You've got our other donut holes that we've got in our sewer map of some areas. Steve's one of them. He's somebody that would love to hook on to sewer if it came down his road. He lives in one of those donut holes. He would love to have it. That's another aspect of potential new customers and potential annexations for the city of Mount Juliet. Just throw that out there.
Yeah, let's annex
it's-
everybody.
There you go.
We are,
Steve, you want to annex, don't you?
It's a long way to my house, so I don't. Office Saunders will figure.
we're
Oh,
6
yeah,
minutes
about
over,
that.
so we have another activity scheduled at 6 p.m. and we're a little long on it. So I think you heard your actions, which you getting the survey in place and then trying to line that up and look some more at our current construction that we've got going on.
Thank you for this.
Yeah.
By the way.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.